So before I actually start the episode proper, the weirdest thing happened yesterday. How do I explain it in English words good? Basically, Black Veil Bride's lead singer's dad commented on a video and said he was looking forward to this as the main episode. None of this is scripted, by the way. This is stuff that happened. I'm surprised, to say the least, and I hope the full episode is to his liking as well as to Argyle, who requested the episode, to mine as I've written it, and to anyone who watches this. This is going to be awkward, but let's move on to the main thing now. I just wanted to get that out of the way really quick. With that being said, hello and welcome to the episode proper for Black Veil Brides. We start with the band's debut album, We Stitch These Wounds. Released in 2010, it would come out through Standby and Virgin Records, and it was produced by Rob Blasco Nicholson. I covered the background for this already, so let's go to the songs on the album, which start with the intro track The Outcast in brackets Call to Arms, which features Andy's grandfather on, sort of as a past thing, before going to the first proper song, which is a title track. Now at the time, these guys were a lot more metalcore leaning, and they got a lot, and I mean a lot of flack, especially for this album. But let's try to unpack that. To be fair to the instrumental work, it actually shreds pretty quickly with some speedy work on the guitars, and especially the drumming sounds nice too. The lyrics cover really dark topics like self-harm and depression and love, so yeah, it is sort of an emo thing, but it works for them, and it would have worked for me back in 2010, I'll tell you that much. The performances aren't bad either, they just had a lot to learn at the time. Andy Six still had a ways to go especially, but his cadence is there and everyone else sounds really good too. The production can feel tiny bit lacking in places, especially on the two biggest singles, but it manages for the most part. The structuring isn't bad either, with good pacing, a really solid song flow, and a decent amount of heavy to it too. My favourite song goes to All Your Hate. We Stitch These Wounds isn't perfect, but it's a good debut, and it straight doesn't deserve the backlash that it's gotten. Next is the band's second album, Set the World on Fire. Released in 2011, it would be their first through Lava/Universal Republic Records, and it was produced by Josh Abraham and Lucian Walker. So the band didn't really get up to a lot after their debut, but someone who worked at Hot Topic made a connection with someone at Lava, and the band switched labels to Lava. And they managed to squeeze in a wee bit of touring as well, so there's that. As for this album, it starts with the song New Religion, and this is already a completely different Black Veil Brides. They would wind up drawing unfavourable comparisons to Kiss, mostly because everyone claimed BVB were ripping them off by taking up a new glam metal style here, which works for Black Veil Brides, by the way. The riffs are quite layered and dynamic, and the drum work especially goes off at the right times, and the bass is actually surprisingly good too. The lyrics are even a bit different too, taking a less personal stance and talking about things like celebrity media, identity, and even some religious themes, which Andy Biersack is a fan of. The performances are damn great, with Andy sounding a lot better on this one too, he just sounds more confident, but I have to give a rare standout singular performance to Chris Coma on the drums. The dude absolutely smashes it. It's got some damn slick production that cleans up nicely, doing a good job of filing things down, but not enough where there's nothing there. And it's got really good structuring with some furious pacing at times and a better flow than the debut had, in my opinion. My favourite song goes to God Bless You. World on Fire is a good sequel, honestly, and there's more to love here than you would think. Next is the band's third album, Wretched and Divine, The Story of the Wild Ones. Released in 2013, it came through Lava again. It was produced by our Lord and Saviour, John Feldman. So the band were busy touring. They released a 2011 EP titled Rebels, and they were even nice enough to let small movies like Transformers and Avengers borrow their songs. You know, tiny franchises that never amounted to anything, all that. Eventually they would work on this album, which starts with intro track Exordium and then goes into the first song, I Am Bulletproof. It actually experiments really well with instruments, with added symphonic elements which fit well with the melodic pacing of the heavier riffs. The lyrics are sort of loose in the concept though, they focus more on the band's usual themes, but there is spoken word that does highlight the themes of self-belief, rebellion and war. Performances are again really solid, with Jake Pitt's guitar work being a highlight for me, and Andy's vocals just sound a lot better too. Production is, it's John Feldman. You know, the dude's fantastic as always, and he adds so much and helps to clean a lot of it up, so I don't really need to tell you, because it's John Feldman. He's really good at this shit. The structure is also solidly paced, with spoken word smaller tracks doing decently, even if they can be a tiny bit much at times. My favourite song goes to Nobody's Hero. Wild Ones can be a little bit excessive, but it earns its keep, and the attempt at the concept is interesting at least, and everything else is just executed quite well. Following on is Black Veil Bride's fourth album, Black Veil Brides. Released in 2014, it would have the same label, and it was produced by Bob Rock. Unfortunate. What's also unfortunate is that I don't really have a lot to say about this one. There was maybe some touring, but this album came out so soon after Wretched and Divine that there wasn't a lot left in between. With that said, let's start with the album and the first song, titled Heart on Fire. From the first song, it feels like an album that harkens back to the first album by the band, which works in places. I do like the instrumental pacing being fast, but it can sometimes stumble, and that shows sort of badly here at times. The lyrics cover familiar subjects of religion and love and such, but without the concept spark that worked on their last album, it does lack a bit of spice. The performances are decent though, with Chris Coma saving a lot of the album with his drumming alone, although, you know, there's still some really solid solos for the most part. Production is... it's Bob Rock. You know, he's sort of the opposite end of John Feldman. It's overly polished, it's too tightly wound, and it just doesn't add anything. I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of Bob Rock's production, I'm just not. The structuring isn't bad, with quick pacing helping out and only the occasional bit of drag here and there. My favourite song goes to Stolen Omen. For a self-titled album, it really doesn't feel like Black Veil Brides actually made this, and while it has its moments, it logically leads nowhere interesting or new for them. It just feels really by the numbers. And finally, we reached the band's 5th album, Vale. Released in 2018, it would come out through Lava and Republic, and it was produced by John Feldman and Jake Pitts. After their self-titled album, they got to tour with the likes of Set It Off and Falling in Reverse, and Andy was busy with putting out his first album under the Andy Black moniker titled The Shadow Side. Eventually, they got to this album, which starts with the spoken word piece Incipiens ad Finem, before going to the first actual song titled The Last One. So this album does again focus on more of a rock vibe with a lot less metalcore. That is clear from the instruments, which have more measured riffs and steadier rhythms, even with the symphonic elements returning. The lyrics still have the same themes of belief and love and such, but with more of a guided hand, so it feels a bit more cohesive than last time. The performances are still good, with Andy Black being a great singer and Jake Pitts being a phenomenal guitarist himself too. I think this is Jake's best performance, maybe. The production is nice and beefy, as you would expect from Feldman, again adding a lot but letting it breathe well enough, and Jake helping with the production does add a lot to it too. The structure is also pretty well handled, with some really steady rock pacing shifts that fit the band more naturally, I think. At least more naturally than they did on the self-titled. My favourite song goes to Our Destiny. Vale is a great pick-off from their self-titled, with a lot of the elements working better and a better sense for their sound this time around too. And that is it! That's all 5 albums by Black Veil Brides covered so far, and I know that the Phantom Tomorrow is going to be in October, but there's a very good chance this season will be done before then. I'm hoping. I don't know. Anyway, it was fun to go over a band that gets a lot of stigma, and while it's not the first time I've done it for an episode, these guys are one of the better known examples, so it was good to go over all their old stuff and find out what I liked. I want to thank Argyle for the request. I want to thank Chris Biersack, weirdly enough, for commenting on a video. Like, I'm still not over that. It's been almost a day, and I'm still processing that fact. Like, the dad of the singer of the band I'm talking about right now, or just finished talking about rather, commented on a video and said he was looking forward to this one. I need to move on, quick. Anyway, the next requested episode will be Caravan Palace, as requested by my good friend Maya. The next things you'll see me for, though, before that, will probably be PBW vs ABW tonight. Got a really good card. I'm glad I managed to get that finished yesterday, so I can get it all, like, aired tonight. It's going to be good. Next thing after that, I don't really know. Most likely an Ultimate Fighter episode review. I don't have a lot of plans besides that, and then at some point I've got to start working on the Caravan Palace episode. But it always take a couple of days between backtracking episodes to do that, so that's all I can really think of. Might as well sign off now, as always. Thank you for watching, you're awesome. Bye bye.